So here's a question, guys. Would you use Studio Minitors for a stereo setup, a hi-fi stereo system setup? Would you consider using a pair of Studio Minitors for that kind of application? Now, if you've been following this channel for any period of time, you would know that, when it comes to audio, I'm a bit unconventional, so to speak, hence the name of the channel. And recently, I did something unconventional, alluding to the fact that I recently tried a pair of Studio Minitors, as a two-channel kind of setup. Now, these monitors were not something I went out to buy. They were already in my home. My son was in digital music production, and so he has monitors. So I just thought I would, give them a try to hear how they sound. And of course, there are pros and cons about using monitors, which we're going to get into. But what do you think? What do you think? All right, so my name is Owen, and if you're happening on the channel for the first time, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for tuning in. And this is where I sit and I talk about audio from a two-channel perspective, stereo and surround sound. All right, so thank you for stopping by. So would you use Studio Minitors in a stereo setup? Let's talk about that. Okay, so what are Studio Minitors, to be exact? What exactly are Studio Minitors? If you have ever been into a recording studio, you would see these speakers that the engineers using to mix and master sounds. Generally speaking, these are what Studio Minitors are. So in a more general sense, Studio Minitors are used, basically speaking, in a recording environment or a mixing and mastering environment where a sound engineer, mixing engineer would use these sounds, these speakers that are more designed for these kind of applications. So generally speaking, they're more professional design speakers to be used in a recording environment. They produced a sound signature that is, for the most part, very natural sound, because of course, the engineer needs to hear the sound as it was intended, as it was recorded, so the sound that they produce are generally very uncolored, very, very kind of flat kind of sound. And just going back to what I said earlier, the sound quality for the most part is very accurate sound. So if you're considering, trying something like this, what are some of the benefits that you can expect? Or what are some of the benefits that are available, using a sound, a studio monitor, pair of Studio Minitors? Some of the benefits, and just to repeat myself a little bit, is clean, accurate sound. Very detailed quality sound, and sound where you can hear the nuances of the music. Because as a mixing or a sound engineer, you don't want speakers that are going to add anything, any kind of coloration or anything that was not intended to be heard. You understand what I mean? Yeah, I'm not a sound engineer, but from the research that I've done and what I've heard, and the conversations that I've had, it is desirable that the speaker produce sound in a very natural and clean, without giving you all the nuances that you want to hear. Apart from that, they produce a kind of a flat sound profile. Let's put it that way. Very flat, kind of sound quality. If you're not, if you're not into, if you don't like your music, being flat in terms of the frequencies that they produce, then, Studio Monitors will not be a good choice for you. I can assure you that. One of the biggest benefits, I think, though, is the fact that they have built-in amplifiers, So if you're thinking about starting, a stereo setup, a 2-channel setup, the fact that Studio Monitors already have their amplifiers built in to them, this would kind of negate the fact, or negate the necessity to go out and purchase an amplifier, a separate outboard amplifier to power them, because amplifiers are already they do have amplifiers that are built in, which is part of the whole construction process. Another thing about them is that they are for the most part, they are very durable, very heavy, because they are designed to take the rigors of sound production. I mean, they may have to be transported and all of that, so they are very very durable. For the most part, most of them are very rugged. Even the least expensive ones can be rugged. So those are some of the benefits of using Studio Monitors. Accurate sound quality, flat frequency response, built-in amplifier, which is a big deal, and the fact that they're quite durable. But of course, it's not all roses here. They all have certain amount of drawbacks. Everything in life has their pros and cons about them. And like I mentioned earlier, they do produce a very flat response, and I'm talking about drawbacks now. So, a flat response may not be something that excites you, because, the music, having a flat response may cause the music to be lacking in terms of a soul. There's no, I'm trying to find the right words to describe it. I wish I had the words like some of these other reviewers have. The way they describe their their speakers and stuff, or sound quality. But what I'm trying to say though is that the sound, you don't get a warm sound from these from Studio Monitors. They don't necessarily produce a warm sound, even though the sound quality is accurate, and all of that. They don't produce sound that is warm and inviting and kind of pull you in. That's what I'm trying to say, because they are designed to focus more on accuracy rather than the color of the sound, if I may use that word. So another drawback with Studio Monitors is the fact that they are, generally speaking, more expensive than regular bookshelf speakers. You will understand why. Basically, they are designed for professional use. That's number one. Number two is the fact that they have all the hardware built in terms of the amplifiers and all of that. So that is part of the reason why they are more expensive. So that is something that you'll have to keep in mind if you're thinking about using Studio Monitors in a 2-channel setting. Much more expensive than a similar size. For the most part, a similar sized bookshelf speaker. Another drawback, at least for some people, is the whole aesthetics, just the way they look. because these things are designed to, you know, they're designed they're designed for function. They're designed for function, not so much for form. All right. And while you can find beautiful studio monitors, for the most part, they emphasize function over form. So, if you are a person who wants to, how should I say, if you are the kind of person who loves beautiful speakers, then you will have to do your diligence to find someone, or you find ones that are, that will match your taste. That's what I'm trying to say, because many of them are not really beautiful. All right. Another drawback is the fact that these monitors are designed for near field listening. When I say near field listening, it's exactly what it means. They're sitting on a desk or on a console in front of the engineer, maybe towed in towards the engineer a little bit. And, the engineer is sitting here at a console in a chair. And so they're just basically a few feet away, 2 or 3 or 4 feet away from the ears of the sound engineer. So generally speaking, they're designed for near field listening. And so based on that, they're not the best candidate to put in a big room per se. Not that they cannot fill a room with big sound, but near field listening is what they are designed for. What do you think? Would you pick up one? So if you're thinking about, picking up a pair of studio monitors for, a stereo setup, there are a couple of things that I think you should, keep in mind. A couple of things that and while these are not deal breakers, so to speak, but they could, help you determine whether or not, it's the right choice for you. Number one, if you prefer a more colored sound, if you prefer more warmer quality to your music, studio monitors may not be the best choice, because they are designed to produce a very flat sound, a flat, accurate sound, flat frequencies. They emphasize accuracy over the warm tonal quality of music. Something that you should also keep in mind, which I alluded to earlier, is the fact that they're more suitable for small spaces, much smaller spaces, because they are designed really as, near field monitors. What else should you think about? The cost. The cost of them can be prohibitive when compared to a similarly sized pair of bookshelf speakers. And so, if cost is a factor, then probably going down the road of studio monitors is not a good idea. So, but in conclusion, though, they can be a good choice. It's not doom and gloom. It's not all doom and gloom. They can be a good choice. All you have to do is basically you just need to consider your listening preferences. What do you like? What do you like? How do you like your speaker to sound? Where are you listening your music? And all of that. What's the size of your room? That kind of stuff. Yeah, what's your budget like? What's your budget? And, so, taking all that into consideration, they're not bad choices, picking up a pair of studio monitors. If you're not too fussy about, you know, the color of the music, the warm tonal quality, the you know, whether or not they are bright or whether or not they are, you know, these kind of adjectives used by some of these you know, reviewers. If those things don't really matter to you, then picking up a pair of studio monitors probably is a good way to start. Number one, you know, it will save you you know, some money in terms of going out to buy a pair of let's back that up. It will save you some money in terms of buying a separate amplifier. That's what I'm talking about, you know, a separate amplifier. You know, and like I said, there are drawbacks. You know, many of these studio monitors, in terms of connectors, you know, they use XLR cables or 1/4-inch cables, you know, to connect to them. So that is something you also have to keep in mind, and that could also be a deal breaker for some people. So they're not for everybody. But if you are the kind of person like me who loves to tinker, who loves to experiment, who likes to, you know, do things, you know, try unconventional things, so to speak, you know, then, you know, a pair of studio monitors might be the way to go. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. What do you think? What do you think about studio monitors? Is it something that you've ever thought of trying? Is it something that you're actually running right now? Do you have a pair sitting in your home that you are thinking of, you know, probably using? Of course, you know, like I said, there are pros and cons about, you know, about them, but, you know, it all comes down to you and your preferences and your budget and all of that. Tell me in the comments, hit me up in the comments and let me hear from you about what do you think about using studio monitors in a stereo setup. All right? So until the next video, you take care of yourself, and thank you so much for watching, and just be good. All right?